Today's video is made possible by our friends at SimpliSafe. Welcome back, friends, to the shop. I want to cover the 10 things you should never burn in your fireplace or wood stove. But before we get into the 10 things, we need to talk about the 3 main types of stoves, because this is going to determine why these things are so bad for your wood stove. Going to have essentially 3 types. We're going to have our non-catalytic, we're going to have our catalytic, and then we're going to have our catalytic hybrid, which is what we have here. Now, the big difference is just the thumbnail sketch to take away from this if you're trying to determine which is going to be best for you. Your non-catalytic stove is going to be better for things like rentals or something that you use not all that often. Let's say you're going to put something in a shop and you just want it to heat up when you're working. You want it to be simple, not complicated, that someone who's not familiar with it can operate it, i.e. rental. That's going to be your best bet. The downfall with those is they're not going to hold fire as long and they're not going to be as efficient typically. Now, your catalytic stoves, and we'll just talk about the catalytic hybrid because I think that's probably the best way to go if you're using this for a full-time heat source, is going to hold wood longer. It's going to have a more even heat. It's going to produce the same amount of heat with a little bit less wood. And if you want something that just gives a nice, smooth, even heat with a good rolling burn for a home that you're living in or something you're heating all the time, that's going to be a pretty good option. The downside of that is they're a little more temperamental because they have a stainless steel, the good ones do, platinum coated catalytic unit, just similar to what we're going to have in our cars and trucks, that is going to do a reburn. What's kind of cool about these stoves is they just see a burning smoke go up on the Mama Kitty's tail there as she touched the glass. Be careful, Mama Kitty. The catalytic converter stoves like this one, the Green Mountain 80, are going to have 3 burn chambers. Your first, your primary, your secondary, and your tertiary. And what that gives you is a super, super clean burn. The nice thing about these is you have an option to go catalytic or non-catalytic. So if you throw this arm on the back, for example, that opens a bypass door and you're bypassing that catalytic converter. The number one thing you don't want to burn in your stove is pressure treated or painted wood. Pressure treated wood looks like this. It's got the little staples in it and it's got an insecticide in it that prevents bugs and such from eating it and chewing it up, termites and stuff. You'll see that anything where you have ground surface or ground contact. The problem with that is it's got all that chemical in it, and all that chemical goes up into your chimney out in the smoke, and it doesn't go out away from you. You know, everything that you burn, eventually most of it falls back on your land, and then your kids are in it and all that. And if you've got some old treated wood, they used to use arsenic for that, and that's really some bad stuff. So don't burn that. Fun fact, do you know they use the worst wood, the cheapest, most low-grade wood for pressure treated wood? In this area, they'll use like some low-grade hemlocks, they'll use some white fir, just the garbage wood that no one would want. That's why it just goes to pieces in the sun and why it looks so bad when you buy it. Kind of a fun fact. Painted wood, same thing. If you're doing a demo from an old house, you know, we know the old paint has lead in it. You know, that's not leaving your property. It goes up in the chimney and then right back down on your house and in your yard and in your garden and everything. And plus, all of these things I'm going to talk about are really, really going to be bad for your catalytic converter because it's a real fine honeycomb type of assembly, and all of that glues and papers and inks and all those things going up there to coat those things, and it's going to last. It's not going to last as long. It's going to cost you more money. So it's just not worth it burning it. Gone are the days where you can use the old stove as a garbage incinerator. That's just not an option anymore with the newer stoves. Number 2 is any sort of a man-made wood. Particle board, plywood, OSB. Do you know what OSB stands for? Oriented strand board. You know that stuff we use for sheeting on roofs? All of that is all bound with glues and plywoods, and again, all of it goes up into the atmosphere. It coats your chimney, it coats your catalytic converter. You don't want to use any of those things. You'll see it when you burn it. I mean, it smells bad and it'll stink. The glues and the resins can coat the inside of your chimney or your flue and contribute to chimney fires, which as a firefighter, I would say in a rural district, 9 out of 10 of the fires that we ran on were all chimney fires from either burning cardboards and papers or wet, high resinous wood. Unseasoned firewood is really bad. That's where you really get that black tar, that creosote built up in your chimney and your flue, especially the high resin woods like we have out here west with our firs and guys that were firs and pines and such. Firewood should be at a moisture rate of between 20 and 15%. You're going to know that when you look at it because usually it'll be gray in color. When you flip the edges over, you're going to see cracking and checking, and the bark is going to be loose on it. If you can't pull the bark off of it, it's probably not seasoned. Be very careful with some of these firewood guys. They all advertise seasoned firewood, but rarely is it seasoned. You want to make sure you ask them what, if they're a legitimate firewood hauler, ask them what is the moisture percentage of this. And I would buy a meter. You can buy these meters. They're very inexpensive now on Amazon or eBay or wherever. They've got 2 prongs on them. You just plug them into the side right there and you know exactly what your moisture content is. So be a savvy consumer when you're calling firewood guys and let them know that they can't just bring you a bunch of stuff that's been sitting on the wet ground and is not seasoned when they say that it's seasoned, because the reality of it is you're only going to get about 1/3 of the BTUs out of unseasoned wood as you would for something that is seasoned. And it takes an entire 12 months to properly season wood, unless it's really tiny. But for most cordwood, you're looking at a whole year or better, depending on the type. Number 4 is resinous woods, woods with a lot of pitch or sap in them, like a pine or a cedar. Those are the main ones around here. The problem with those is they burn really quick, and because of all that resin, they burn quick and fast, but they put a lot of that resin and that creosote up into the chimney. And they also pop really bad. All that resin in there, so it tends to, when it gets heated, it expands, and when you hear the popping sound of a fire, cedar's really bad at that. What that is that resin that's inside, that it's expanding and it's exploding and breaking the wood fibers. If you have a fireplace that's open with a wood floor or carpet, that's potentially a real big problem, because it's always popping and cracking and it'll throw embers out and it can start your house on fire. Now, with that being said, pine and cedar make really great kindling. If you have a little bit and you can set it aside and just chop it into small kindling pieces, it's really good for fire starting. Cedar is the best fire starter that you can get. If you guys have been putting off getting a security system, don't put it off anymore. Now's the time. SimpliSafe is offering 50% off of a whole home system. That's early access to the Black Friday deals. Now is the time to get it. I have installed 2 of these systems and I absolutely love it. There's sensors for water, there's sensors for smoke, there's sensors for glass breaking. We've got the new wireless camera. Crime is on the rise. I'm hearing people having break-ins, things being stolen. To have my house protected and have every door covered really gives me a peace of mind that I'm going to know immediately, even if I'm sleeping, that something's going to let me know that there's trouble. Not only that, it's going to automatically call the fire department. If you have a fire, it's going to call the police department. There's going to be someone on standby. You're just not going to be on your own. Also, it's really easy to install. Anyone can do it in about an hour or so. It's nothing complicated. The interface is very simple. I absolutely love my system. The folks at SimpliSafe always ask me to share my favorite feature, and a couple things come to mind. One of the things, sometimes utility is handy, and I like to have, I keep a freeze sensor out here in the shop because I've got a lot of money wrapped up in spray paints, and if those get frozen, those can go bad. And so I put that little freeze sensor right in my cabinet, and that tells me if it gets below freezing, then I need to come in here and start the wood stove. And of course, the outdoor camera, the wireless camera, that's just a game changer. I've been able to get notifications when I'm away from home that the UPS is there or someone's pushing on the front doorbell. I can even communicate back and forth. It records on my phone. I can check everything through the app. That's really an important feature, and that's really changed the system for me, and I love that very much. If you'd like to get your own system and you'd like to take advantage of that 50% off, and I encourage you to do that, you can go to simplisafe.com/Wranglerstar. Get your system coming. They'll send it in the mail. You can order online or on the phone, and now's the time. Half price is a great deal. Now back to the video. Number 5 is wet firewood. Maybe firewood that you purchased that was properly seasoned that you stacked up outside or put on the ground and didn't cover up. It's been rained on, it's got snow on it. You're going to lose all of the value. You're going to lose all those BTUs. As I said, 1/3 the BTUs of seasoned firewood. So it doesn't make any sense to do that. Just go get yourself a tarp, get something over there, get it underneath the eaves, but keep that covered up. And if you're going to put it on the ground, it's also going to soak up a lot of moisture from the ground. So those bottom pieces are not something you want to burn. If you guys have been putting off getting a security system, don't put it off anymore. Now's the time. SimpliSafe is offering 50% off of a whole home system. That's early access to the Black Friday deals. Now is the time to get it. I have installed 2 of these systems and I absolutely love it. There's sensors for water, there's sensors for smoke, there's sensors for glass breaking. We've got the new wireless camera. Crime is on the rise. I'm hearing people having break-ins, things being stolen. To have my house protected and have every door covered really gives me a peace of mind that I'm going to know immediately, even if I'm sleeping, that something's going to let me know that there's trouble. Not only that, it's going to automatically call the fire department. If you have a fire, it's going to call the police department. There's going to be someone on standby. You're just not going to be on your own. Also, it's really easy to install. Anyone can do it in about an hour or so. It's nothing complicated. The interface is very simple. I absolutely love my system. The folks at SimpliSafe always ask me to share my favorite feature, and a couple things come to mind. One of the things, sometimes utility is handy, and I like to have, I keep a freeze sensor out here in the shop because I've got a lot of money wrapped up in spray paints, and if those get frozen, those can go bad. And so I put that little freeze sensor right in my cabinet, and that tells me if it gets below freezing, then I need to come in here and start the wood stove. And of course, the outdoor camera, the wireless camera, that's just a game changer. I've been able to get notifications when I'm away from home that the UPS is there or someone's pushing on the front doorbell. I can even communicate back and forth. It records on my phone. I can check everything through the app. That's really an important feature, and that's really changed the system for me, and I love that very much. If you'd like to get your own system and you'd like to take advantage of that 50% off, and I encourage you to do that, you can go to simplisafe.com/Wranglerstar. Get your system coming. They'll send it in the mail. You can order online or on the phone. And now's the time. Half price is a great deal. Now back to the video. Number 6 are wood pallets. Don't burn wood pallets unless you know the country of origin on them. Most of them will be stamped on there. If you look at a stamp and you can see where they're made. If you're getting pallets that were made overseas, Asia, they use a drying agent called methyl bromide, I think it is, or something like that, which artificially dries wood out or does something to it, but it's toxic and it's not something you want. Again, everything you're going to burn and throw into your wood stove is going to coat that catalytic converter, and it goes into the air and it contaminates and goes all over your property. So if you know where it came from and it's a USA pallet, you're typically okay, but stay away from any of those pallets that have all of that, any of those chemicals on it. Anything from overseas, not safe. Not to mention, you just get a bunch of garbage in there. You get staples and nails, and I can't stand having that dirty wood in a good wood stove. So you can go ahead and recycle it and make all your crafts or whatever you want to do out of it, but remember, all that stuff you're bringing in, that pallet wood from suspicious countries, maybe you might be bringing poison or toxins into your house. Number 7 is driftwood. If you've ever been on the beach and started a big old roaring fire from the driftwood you drag together for the family cookout, you'll notice that it has all the pretty colors when it's burning, the greens and the blues. Well, that reason why it has those colors in it is because of all the years of it floating in the ocean. It absorbs all of those metals and those minerals in there, and when you burn it, all of that is released, and that's toxic. So especially if you have an open face fire, or you have a stove that doesn't burn super clean and you get some smoke in there, all that stuff goes into your house. I would not burn driftwood outside of beach fire. Beach fire is fine, but just don't be sitting in the smoke because that's pretty toxic stuff. And for goodness sakes, don't burn plastics. I know most people don't do that, but if you're burning junk mail and you're just throwing random cardboard and different things in there, there's a lot of plastics and clips in there that you can miss. That's terrible for your catalytic converter and terrible for your health. There is a reason why firefighters have, I think, occupationally among the highest cancer rates of any occupation, and it's because they go into those burning houses and everything in there is oil-based or toxic, from the couches are made out of nylon to most of the clothing, to the cushions, to the carpets. I mean, very few natural fibers in there, and when you go in there, and I know even now, you know, with guys using SCBAs and stuff, but back in the day, I mean, I remember going in fires volunteer and you kind of just try to hold your breath when you're doing rehab and you're in there breathing that stuff, and it just is terrible for you. Don't burn plastics. And so the best thing to do is just to have a moratorium on any sort of a junk mail or papers or cardboards. Don't put that stuff in your wood stove. I've always got along and been friendly with my neighbors. Every house that I've either lived in or rented, except for one time I almost had a fight. And that was my old neighbor Norm. And he burned trash. And I was working, I had my shop and I worked for home when I was doing my Jeep business, and he was maybe 100 yards down to the south from me. And he would start burning a trash pile down there, and he didn't discriminate. He threw plastic, garbage cans in there, and that would just waft up and fill my shop. It was just a constant reek of melting plastic. And I told him 3 or 4 times, Norm, you better stop burning the plastic. I even offered to bring a dumpster down there for him and pay for his garbage, but he wouldn't do it, and he kept burning the plastic. I finally had to go down there and we had a confrontation, and anyway, it worked out and he quit burning the plastic. But for goodness sakes, don't burn plastic ever. It's just terrible. It is terrible for your body. It can, if you are breathing any type of smoke and you feel like you're having headaches, dizziness, respiratory distress, anything like that, there's a good chance that there's PVCs or plastics in that smoke, and it is awful. It's one of those things that I just cannot stand the smell of. It's awful. Don't burn plastics. And number 10 is accelerants. Any sort of accelerant, don't use them in your wood stove. Well, I'm talking about gasoline, diesel, or lighter fluid. What you have is you have inside the chimney and inside the firebox, you have a confined space. And you know what happens when you put explosives in a confined space, that's how you get a cartridge to fire. You need to contain that. And I have seen wood stoves that have blown up, or a massive fireball can go up into the chimney and cause all sorts of problems. Plus, it burns so hot that it can burn so hot that it will overcook your stove. Especially the new ones. If you're talking about the catalytic converters and these more complicated triple chamber stoves, they're designed to run at a particular temperature, and they're designed to work and to run with firewood. That's what their fuel is. Don't be pouring plastics in there, or plastics. You got me hung up on the plastics. Don't be pouring any sort of a liquid or an accelerant in there. If you have good dry seasoned wood, if you do your due diligence and make sure you buy the right stuff and keep your kindling dry, there's no reason why you can't just match light it. Maybe just roll up a little bit of paper. If you're going to use paper, don't use colored newspaper. Nothing with color or shiny face on it. Definitely don't use gift wrapping. But take your paper. I'm an old boomer here. Nobody has papers anymore, but we used to use the newspaper, and you roll it up, take your square out, roll it up like a bow tie, so it's tight in the middle, and then the flares open up a little bit on the outside. Stick a couple of those in there, and you can light the edge, and that rolled part that's tight will burn a little bit longer. Also, you're pretty safe if you burn the brown paper bags you get from the grocery store, not the plastic ones. But that's it. That's my 10 things you never want to burn in your wood stove. The reason why I'm doing this video is I think wood burning in wood stove is a good option. With fuel prices getting as high as they are, at my local gas station here, the gas, I think we're coming up on $5 a gallon. That's a lot of money. And if you're using propane prices are way up, fuel oil prices are way up, just skyrocketing, and the availability. We're having lots of problems with our supply chain, and I wouldn't sleep well at night if that was my only source of heat for my family. You want to look into getting a wood stove. The nice thing about it is you can go get your own firewood. You can cut your own firewood. You receive 100% of the benefit. No tax man's got his finger in it taking the portion. The effort you put into the cutting and stacking and burning that firewood, you receive 100% of it, and it's a great thing to do with your kids or grandkids. I'll do a video, I was just thinking as I was making this one of a basic woodcutter kit for a guy that maybe has not owned a chainsaw or has not ever done that before, but wants to get a few cords and have on hand just in case. If you're interested in that, let me know in the comments. And I've got a question for you, this final one. Of all the wood you'll find in North America, which one has the highest BTUs? And don't cheat by looking up, doing a Google search. Let me know in the comments which wood species has the greatest BTU of all of them. Thanks for watching. May God bless you and your families. Please keep us in your prayers, and we'll see you all on the next video.